Hey guys, so it's me again. At first I thought I knew what I was gonna talk about, but since Trans Day of Remembrance just passed this last Friday for me, some people had different dates for it, at least for celebration or observing the date in different states, but for me it was Friday, and I thought I would set aside a video to talk about that because it's very important to talk about such things, and conversations need to be had about this. Just want to let you guys know that a trigger warning is in place because some of the things I might talk about might be a little hard for some people to hear due to the nature of Trans Day of Remembrance. So just letting you know right now to be prepared of what I'm going to say. Right. So on Friday we had an event at the place I intern at, and it was a great event. It was jam packed though, but yeah, it was just like crazy. And sorry about that. So it was a crazy event. Like there was so many people. I but they allowed space for like remembering people. They didn't really give any specific names. It was like an all general thing. And it was just jam packed. Like a lot of people had to stand around the seats and stuff. Like I'd never seen anything like this. I think we would have to take it to a bigger space next year should we still have that. And ideally, I wouldn't want to have Trans Day of Remembrance again. Ideally, I would like to think that these people would have lived instead of dying, and we would be celebrating their lives instead of, mourning their deaths that obviously came too soon as a result of transphobia, fear of the unknown, and basically blind hate. And this basically, for me, the day in a nutshell basically reminded me that we still have a very long way to go. We've been making progress, but we still have a very long way to go, and I'll do what I can to help that along instead of just sitting down and doing nothing with my arms crossed like this. So, as I was saying, I was there. They were nice. Like, they were talking about, like, people and how we should be celebrating. And there's also some guest speakers and keynote guests. And they also set some time and space for people who ever wanted to share their feelings to come up to the mic and speak. And I would have been one of those people and said all these things I'm going to say in this video now, but I was volunteering, so I obviously couldn't afford to do that. I was in the back serving food to everyone because food was provided. And I just sat there listening. And on top of what I've just told you, tensions and feelings were running very high, and I don't blame them for having those feelings because this year was basically in my idea of the worst year for trans progress. And I don't mean that for like progress as in rights. We're definitely getting more rights and we're having more inclusion and like we're having more discussions about this, more people are coming out, but I mean in the sense of we're losing more lives than ever. And we had so many lives lost to suicide or transphobia, death and finding their bodies. And well, yeah, it was just horrible, and it just made me look down at myself in shame because most of the things that they talked about, well, not talked about, they were basically yelling like their feelings were just poured out. They were so stressed, and they were basically saying how our support seems to end, and I kind of agree with them. Like our support seems to end as soon as like Trans Day of Remembrance is over. It's finally stopped being observed, and we tend to go back with lives being the way they are. The usual routine of going to work and not even worrying about this. Especially if you're not a transgender yourself, you're generally not going to think about being an ally to them on a daily basis or actually caring about their rights so much that you're going to be supporting someone or calling somebody out on their trans jokes or basically making fun of your friend. No, most people generally don't do that unless there's like a huge investment in that person. While we should be investing in this kind of thing for every trans person you might know. I'm sure everybody might at least know one trans person, and there are things that should not be said even when they're not around. And ideally, these people should do something about it, but instead we just continue to remain to contribute indirectly to this transphobia by staying silent. And so a lot of people were basically shouting, and with good reason too, and I couldn't do anything other than look down in shame because I'm also part of that. Because one of the things one person said was like, trans men are not really doing much for our community, and especially not for our trans sisters, because, and let's be real, trans sisters tend to face a lot more transphobia and violence and all those things than trans men, because we tend to succumb to ourselves more to dysphoria than to like people being violent toward us. Now, I'm not erasing those experiences, but trans women, we do have to care about them. We have to help them somehow because they're tightly knit together because they have to. And us, I'm sorry to say that we're not really caring too much about other people in our community, and not even our own. We have like this trans police. Oh, you're not masculine enough, you must not be trans. This whole shitstorm of problems in our own community that we obviously need to nip in the bud and just remove that. Just remove that and focus more on acceptance. At least that's what I think. But aside from all these like heavy tension and heavy feelings that were shouted across the room, because it wasn't just trans people there. There were supposedly trans allies. But one of the things that we talked about that hopefully next year we would have achieved, at least in time for next year's Trans Day of Remembrance, is hopefully a lot more people in the LGBT spectrum will focus more on the T rather than write a petition to drop the T, because, and don't think I haven't forgotten, because trans people have been a big contribution towards helping you guys get same-sex marriage, and to throw us under the bus like that is beyond disrespectful. It was just, I can't even. I can't even. So, on top of that, we have to have more funding for trans programs and all these things so we can have a healthy, sustainable life. That's all we want. We're not asking you to chop your arms off. We just want our basic rights that everybody else has. Basically, have our names respected, our pronouns respected. We just want basic respect and rights that everybody else has, but we're not getting because of something that we wanted, of being ourselves, and it's horrible. So yeah, those are basically my thoughts. I look down in shame because I'm also part of the trans men community, and that's what they attributed most of our divisiveness, more or less, and I just look down in shame. And I know I can do better. I know I can. I can help my trans sisters, basically be there for men, but there's only so much I can do. But I'm going to start thinking more of the trans women who are subject to this violence on a daily basis and don't have like a decent job. They tend to focus themselves more on sex work because generally they are less likely to pass, and it's also very expensive for them to get their hormones, this basic care and surgeries. Not everybody is privileged enough. Caitlyn Jenner is only like this 1 in a million exception to the rule, and she's not even a good representation of trans women, because trans women don't have like instant access to surgeries or anything that money can provide. Not a lot of people are rich like her. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say in this video. Next week, I think is like the end of November, so you probably will see like a slideshow of my beard coming in, since I shaved it off in the beginning of this month for No Shave November, and see how much I've grown since then. So yeah, just remember that Trans Day of Remembrance is basically not only to mourn the lives of others who were lost to transphobia and blind hate and, fear in the unknown, basically irrational people. It's also a time to remember to practice self-care. Always step away from the situation when you're like not feeling good. Do things that you love, and just remember that you're beautiful. There's people out there that care about you and support you, and that you are loved. Don't forget that. I certainly love you guys, like honestly. So yeah, I think I rambled too much in this video. So I hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving. I know I will, if you eat turkey or if you're vegan or something. But anyways, yeah. Peace.